Welcome back to Rain Day Gaming. My name is Rain Day. Today we're going into a Season 19 tier list to give you competitive and casual rankings for these characters. So no matter what you care about, whether it's watching the ALGS and me as a caster for 4 years, and what we know and say is the best of the best in the Apex Legends Global Series versus what you want to play in-game and what'll work for your pub matches or rank matches, you'll have the answers here. I do want to say, if you want to give this a like, it really helps this video go out, and obviously sharing it is great, but just a like is enough if you're watching and enjoying. Let's start with the D tier, because D is basically a very important tier for characters who need help, but they also can do a couple things okay. That is going to be Mirage. There is only one legend who is a D in my humble opinion, and that is because Mirage does not bring enough tools to do stuff consistently or do stuff as effectively as other legends in Apex. Now, from a consistent casual perspective, Mirage actually has some value. He's a character that is very difficult in a 1v1, especially when you have less experienced players, because let's be honest, we've all been bamboozled once, twice, or maybe even twice today. It's a pretty decent ability, but what does it do? Instead of just giving you the first shot, it doesn't really apply much for your team. Yes, it pings information. Yes, it gives you probably some awareness of where that squad is, but you kind of already knew that. And Mirage, in order to really fulfill more of a role in high-level play and ranked or in the ALGS, is got to have more utility for his team. He's a decent individual legend. I've seen great Mirages and even decent Mirages in high-level ranked as well as pubs, but if you want to talk about competitively, you won't see this character until they get some major changes for their team. It's just too many better choices, too many options, and Mirage doesn't fill the void enough. All right, let's get into the C category. C, these are characters that actually are okay. You can actually see a main of this character, whether it's in ranked casuals, that actually performs really well, like impresses you. And I think that these are characters that you probably want to stay away from if you're new and you're trying to pick a new character to main heading into this new season, but are still decent choices to have fun with. And while they may not give you an easy win, they can win. And it definitely depends on kind of those micro picks of what you're focused on. Vantage to me is a typical C character. Doesn't really have enough of a kit to be considered in the medium or upper echelon. Definitely a lower level character. Hitbox is a little bit bigger. You also have an ultimate that I think has potential. It's a damage amp. It gives you information on your teammates. It's an extra weapon. It's a sniper, but it doesn't do enough damage to be as damaging as she needs to be to turn a fight, and it doesn't have enough of a charge. They made a change in this direction. 2 changes, I said. Increase the charge rate of getting the bullets back, or give her more bullets. They gave her more bullets and went from 5 to 6, but is that enough to really shift her from where she is? No. She has a decent movement ability, which kind of keeps her at C and not D. I think if she had no movement ability, she would probably fall a little bit lower, but the Echo relocation is kind of wonky. Sometimes it works great, sometimes it doesn't. I think that this is where Vantage is, and I'm sure most of you would agree with me there. The other C character, which is a character I almost don't know if I love putting in C, but fits here, is Mad Maggie. Mad Maggie has one of my favorite abilities in the game, Riot Drill. And I think this ability is just so fun. It's so good. It's so applicable. You can get a ton of damage off of it. As a player who loves characters with tactical abilities, I think Mad Maggie has just a lot of fun. But does that make her valuable in any high level capacity, even ranked? I think the answer is no. I mean, when you look at Maggie's kit, the real thing that is the slowdown for me is the fact that she has her ultimate, the Wrecking Ball, being so inconsistent. They've worked on this in previous patches, but you just cannot guarantee what's going to happen in a fight when you throw that. And when you talk about ranked and you talk about pubs, Maggie can fit well. She can go into the lower tiers of maybe diamond ranked. Most likely you'll stop seeing her at pred, but you can obviously play pubs with Maggie and have a lot of fun. But pubs are uncoordinated. That's kind of the way pubs are. When you go into ranked, you need to know what that ultimate is going to do and guarantee the value in the next play. Unlike maybe a Horizon Black Hole, Maggie's Wrecking Ball is just going to cause chaos. And chaos, while sometimes is fun and good, is not predictable and is not high level enough to be considered a part of the ALGS. I think this is maybe one day for Maggie, and as the consistency of the Wrecking Ball comes in, you never know. I like the shotgun passive. We'll see if that scales, but for now, clearly a C rank for me. Let's move into another C rank. A character I've been a huge fan of is Ashe. Now, Ashe has an ultimate that when it came out was pretty similar to what Wraith could do, a portal of invulnerability, but instead of being directed in multiple ways, giving speed, it was an instant teleport from one area to the next, allowing your team and anyone else who would take the portal from the moment it was open to the moment it closed to go from one spot to the next and end up there. A very direct version of a Wraith ultimate. The Arc Snare was a great ability and a great idea, and it had recently gotten buffed last season to actually become pretty effective. We actually saw Alliance Hockeys play this in the ALGS. And so Ashe, while having that potential in one of those weird off metas, doesn't have enough, I think, consistently to, again, provide the value that when you talk about SB and A Legends bring to make her more of a pick than not. I think that's really where Ashe stays C. I think you could probably argue for her B, and I think you will see, like I said, low tier, probably diamond potential Ashes. I don't think you see Ashe in Predator rank, but I do ultimately think that this is a character that you can have a ton of fun with maining. Really nice personal mobility. I think her passive is a little lackluster, although that just may be me. I feel that way, and I think the Arc Snare is good. It just doesn't do enough for the squad. If that's all you're banking on for Ashe, besides the teleport, I'm just not sure that she's shown that she's going to be picked at the highest of levels. I still think maybe there's room for her to grow, but for me, that's where she sits. Still, these are individual legends you can work for and try to make moves off of. It's just a little bit more aggressive and not the same level of utility as some of these other legends. Which brings to Ballistic, a great example of this. Ballistic is one of the newer legends, has a really fun ultimate that gets you infinite ammo, and you get to basically carry an extra weapon, a third weapon, and have it in your sling. This weapon turns to gold. I mean, you get everything you need from this weapon when you actually hit the ultimate, and obviously that's a really cool benefit. You could throw a Havoc in there, get a turbocharger in the past. You can do the fully uploaded Hemlock, craft that, throw it in your sling, and when it's time to go, you just have that baby ready without searching for any of the mags or scopes. You know, you could do this with a Rampage or a Spitfire. Those weapons are nuts when they're fully upgraded and you have those full magazines. The issue is, I think, when you talk about his holistic value for a kid, it's in a run and gun style. And the run and gun style, while good, there are other characters that do it better. His tactical is really good for individual fights, but it lacks any type of team utility that would make him jump up to another level. And so for me, Ballistic, while he's a fun character, he's a character I enjoy. I think he's a character that if you want to play and have like kind of more of an aggressive type time playing is cool, is not going to rise above a C until he gets a significant buff. Maybe a multiple Ballistic tacticals. Maybe there's different things that you can have to make him a little bit more oppressive in a fight and not just a 1v1 type fighter. But obviously, any of these legends that are a little bit more 1v1, having hard time spreading this utility out to their team, maybe the exception of Ashe, they're going to be on the lower end of things. I would say probably not even Diamond Ballistic, most likely in ranked and things like that as well. Let's look at Octane. Octane, he continues the C category. A lot of you might be surprised at this one. Like, Randy, what are you doing? Putting Octane there? Yes, I am putting Octane there. I think Octane is either a pretty busted character, as we've seen, or is not really valuable at all. That's really how I see Octane. I think the meta has spoken with it. When Octane was given his initial buffs, the same stem, which took very little health from him, and also the double jump and the new range of the jump pad, him, Revenant, they ran this game for a while. When that changed, it was a big significant change, taking way more health away when he used his tactical stem to move, and also changing some of the jump pads, decreasing a little bit of the height and the movement there. It just totally threw off his flow. It was enough to cripple the character so that while it's fun, still one of the most picked characters in the game, and one of the most kind of fun and first characters that you see. Hey, fun, speed, go fast, jump pad, just doesn't bring really enough team utility. And even the jump pad, again, there's way more consistent and valuable ways to get to places in the game. And that's why I think Octane is just going to be caught in this kind of solo individual land. I think for PUBS, great character, really, really fun, especially if you're like a good player and you solo queue a lot. Octane's a great choice. And I also think that ranked, you can see Octane's kind of jumping up to probably more of the Ballistic level as well, maybe a little bit low diamond, maybe a little right below that platinum, but I think you'll start seeing Octane's completely disappear after that. The biggest thing too, when I just want to bring this up, is that Octane and Ballistic, and you look at Maggie, like especially with Octane, the value of the stem needs to be determined by the player. Certain legends in this list are going to have value given by simply existing. By pressing Q, instant value happens, or pressing whatever button on your controller, instantly good things happen. With Octane, going fast isn't necessarily a good thing because you're trading your health. So unless you use the speed to be so effective that it offsets the lack of health that you just took away, or the loss of health, then and only then is that value. And you'll see these legends that kind of appear on the lower end of this table have that type of trade-off. It's not a guaranteed value. You've got to do something with it. And even then, you're still losing a little something. That is one of the biggest things, and that's why we go S tier and A tier. Consistency and value, those are the things as easily as possible. That's what kind of makes S tier legends. Now, one of the S tier legends used to be Seer, but he has dropped down significantly with reductions to the slow, reductions to stopping reses, reductions to vision, reductions to damage, reductions to range of vision of the ultimate. Seer's gotten hit with every single nerf that you could possibly see, and for good reason. This character was an S tier legend, but why? Let's go deeper into it for those who like thinking about stuff like this. Why was he so good? Well, what about value and what about consistency? Seer was almost without effort able to hit an instant vision, an instant stun, an instant you can't do anything and push me without being completely exposed, an instant aggressive, and team-wide vision, tactical, and ult with really not a lot of effort. That would make a character S tier, and that is what made this character S tier. And when people figured it out with Bangalore, with Horizon, with Seer, we had a meta that Furia pioneered. They got second place. They won nearly $300,000. His Watson rose to fame, challenging Imperial Hal for the first #1 Predator rank that they both were going back and forth each and every day trying to stay with #1 Predator before that split. It was a phenomenal showcase of a new type of Apex. And until they brought Seer down, it just wasn't there. He's a C tier character that if he got his kit back in some form or fashion, would probably jump back to A or maybe even S tier. But right now, it seems like pros have abandoned it. They've said they don't want this game anymore. They don't want the Seer meta. People were tired of the Seer meta. So my boy Seer, he has had to drop down. I'm sorry about it, but you know, that is the way it is. As pumped and ranked, I still think you can get some value with Seer. I think when characters disappear in the way they do this big way, there's still some value there. What is it? You'll probably have to experiment. I would say you will not see a lot of high level Seers, but as an individual character, if you still like playing Seer, I think you can still do some work with this character. Again, if you aim well, you can do a lot of work with all these characters. That's the benefit of playing a BR and you know, all this. We're just kind of theory crafting here on abilities. Now, we're going to go into B. Now, B, how would I describe B? B are characters that are kind of above average. They have tool sets that, you know, they help with matchups. They synergize well. You can see them in the right situation actually succeeding pretty easily. And one of the reasons that Bs are not As is because I think that there's just a collection of individual benefits that As also provide. I think Bs kind of like have an easy pickup and play. They have pretty much decent synergy with some of the higher tier characters, but maybe they're not individually the best. Maybe none of their kit really stands out too much in terms of jumping off. And maybe also they just have a lower skill ceiling. You know, maybe the A's have just like higher potential to really impact the game versus some of the B's. And I think a B pocket pick, which is like, hey, this meta is calling for this kind of change, could be upon us. Specifically Gibraltar. I think Gibraltar is a potential pocket pick that when you start to look at the overall meta, where you see a lot of characters that like to push, they like to rush, they like to play out in the open. We have Storm Point as 3 of our maps in the ALGS. I think that a character like Gibraltar is not ready to come back, but he's on the verge. He's on the verge, in my opinion, of maybe having a moment, because we're seeing a completely shieldless, kind of defenseless meta right here. Newcastle's not really being played as much. Gibraltar's not being played as much. You know, when you have a big shield in a wide open area, you are a little bit susceptible, but also no one else would be able to defend against a defensive bombardment right now. Bangalore's ultimate is really powerful, and part of the reason is no one has any actual defense for it. And a Gibraltar shield would handle that. A Watson pylon would handle that. but they're not characters that are really being used in the same way in masses. So I'm curious if this meta is going to start to shift for my boy Gibraltar. I think also when you look at it, Caustic there as well. Pretty decent character for this game. I think when you see the Caustic meta, you probably see World's Edge. You probably see people who are comfortable holding down buildings. The issue with Caustic and what has always been with Caustic is, can you get him into the position where he's going to succeed? If you get him into a building or a small, tight, enclosed area in the final 5, you're probably going to win. I mean, there's almost nobody who can siege against a Caustic. Apex has tried to make it better and more consistent to get ahead and get into this character, destroying the canisters before they fully go up and deploy, making them easier to shoot, reducing the damage in the gas. But I'm telling you, it is still so hard to beat a Caustic team if they play it right. Obviously, though, like with bees, you got to be in the right situation. A Gibraltar's got to be in the right situation. A Caustic has to be in the right situation. Their value isn't necessarily inherent, but they provide a lot of team utility, and they could probably win you a game if they're in the right squad at the right time. That is a very, very clear statement. A right defensive bombardment, a right Nox gas, or a gas canister setup. It's pretty much GG's. So still a B. I think you could see a Caustic actually in higher levels. I think you probably put a cap on things like Diamond. You probably don't. I don't really like playing defensive legends in PUBS, but I think in PUBS you can absolutely run a Caustic. It's just not going to be maybe the most exciting thing if you have players who aren't playing with you to try to make sure that your pub game can utilize your character strengths. And that also goes for another legend like this, which is Crypto. Crypto is, let's be honest, kind of a different play style. I mean, when you have certain legends that you have to go into a drone, you almost like feel like I'm playing a mini game inside a game of Apex Legends. That's how Crypto was designed. I remember season 3 or season 4, whenever he came out, I mean, it was phenomenal. I loved the difference that his drone made and the impact of the EMP. But as we've seen over the course of just years of Apex, it's a specific pick. It takes a certain type of mentality and player style to actually play him. And aside from teams like Ascend and Kashera, who have used it really well in the ALGS, sometimes we've seen Nasky's squad kind of run a Crypto. I just think that it's not a character that most players consider as a part of their wheelhouse. Now, it doesn't mean that it can't be successful. I mean, this character almost won the Split 1 playoffs last year. It became a 3v3 with TSM, and Hal had to come down from the heavens to actually get the win. So it's not like it's impossible. This is a character that in the right situation, like the Bee, the Gibraltar, the Caustic, the Crypto, in the right situation, can absolutely win. They'll destroy a lobby. But is it as effective as kind of the standard meta that people are running right now? And can you count on it in your normal pubs? Same thing goes for Caustic. Unless you're grouping up with your friends, I don't know if you're going to be able to get value. People don't like really Cryptos hanging around and just not really doing much. If a good Crypto is playing, I'm happy about it. But you could be isolated from your team, and ultimately, while the EMP is good, while the drone is really good, there's just a lot of other characters right now that are pushing the envelope, playing out in the zone. And it's hard to be a Crypto in Storm Point in the middle of like a pond and, be on your drone. You know what I'm saying? Not that that's what you would do, but it's a joke to illustrate the point where sometimes these in games are really fast, tons of movement. You don't necessarily have time for the Crypto EMP. Not saying it couldn't be, but it's kind of where we're at. Now, Lifeline for me gets a B. I think she's kind of like an eternal B. Lifeline used to be OP with her amazing passive, made it 50% faster to heal off her meds. And day 1 Apex, they've been kind of nerfing and challenging this character ever since, and then trying to re-kit her to be in balance with the legends. I like where she's at. I think she's a great solo legend. I think you can actually see Lifeline being used up until a certain point of ranked, probably platinum all the way right till that diamond moment. I think you start to reserve probably anything climbing into Predator for the A and S ranks, but these characters can all be used up until that point. And in PUBS, one of my favorite characters to have on my team in PUBS. I think Lifeline's a great main. She's a great character to pick up. And unlike a lot of these B picks, I put her in B because of just her individual and team-wide utility. Yes, she brings nice reses. She kind of complicates situations if you're going against a 1v1, and she can get up her teammate while also fight. But ultimately, I just think Lifeline is she's just a great pick. She's just a great pick for anyone who's trying to learn the game, jump into the game. In terms of the ALGS, she's absolutely not been included, which is why this B is probably interesting. You could argue she would go down to a C, but I just think in terms of ranked, in terms of pubs, in terms of like the history of the game, Lifeline's just a boom. She's just like a good character. She's good. She ain't making anything happen. She's not stopping anything from happening, and that's kind of the way that I think about Lifeline. But she's probably, a safe pick if you want to start checking out the game. Let's talk about Newcastle. Newcastle is actually a character that has been valued pretty decently in APAC North and in South America. This is where we've seen this character jump up into being played a lot in the ALGS, which was kind of surprising to me. But when we saw it, it worked. We've even seen this take a 5th place, I believe, in one of our lands for ALGS over in England. And what does this mean? Does it mean that this character is just kind of waiting to be brought out into the limelight and show the world, you've made a mistake about me, I've been good all along? No, I don't think so. I just think that Newcastle, in his way, as a newer character and as a character with revives kind of like Lifeline that can help you in combat, that can help you create zones, of all these characters, has the best shielding and the best what's happening now, let's just create let's figure this out on the fly in this faster moving meta option, which is the castle wall. The castle wall is actually decent cover when you don't have cover, and that often happens in 50% of the games in Apex, and maybe even more if you get a bad zone. So I think Newcastle has shown teams that we can have a true support, we can have shielding again, and we can have a true kind of like foundation, even if we don't get spot to a zone and we're rotating late, we're trying to play the edge, and we like to do it. I think Newcastle is a character that can be played at a very low level and also played at a very high level. So for me, if you want to be a Newcastle main, I could see you running not only high diamond with Newcastle, but I could see if you're playing with the right characters, when you're playing with the right legends, you could probably play in some Predator games with them. I don't really see it very often, but I would say that as much as you could see it once or twice in every team of 40 teams in our LAN, that's probably where you would see Newcastle there. A lot of flexibility, pretty decent character, good individual battling with the shield, and obviously can support his team in a variety of ways. So that's why Newcastle stays a B. This legend kind of fits in a different B. Still a character with good advantages. I'd say mobility-wise, probably one of the best, if not the best character in the game outside of maybe one other in my mind. Height, mobility, rotations. Pathfinder can kind of do it all. You know why there have been so many streamers who loved Pathfinder over the course of him being introduced into this game. I mean, the character, he knows what he's doing, and he's fun too. And the way that they've kind of adjusted Pathfinder with the ability to use the grapple and have it reset based on the distance that it goes versus just a normal cooldown has kind of helped, I think, make some type of semblance of how I can use this character and not get overly punished by a way too long of a cooldown, or overly frustrated by fighting a Pathfinder who can go 100 yards every 7 seconds and catch up with me, or I can never catch up with them. Will this character ever jump up back into the A and the S tier? I don't think so. I think it's now kind of an eternal B unless Pathfinder gets some wacky buff in Season 20. But right now, I think in terms of individual play, in terms of ranked, and in terms of pubs, you can take Pathfinder as high as you want. I think unless you talk about coordinated teams in the ALGS, Pathfinder has no limit. This is a character that has one of the higher ceilings of play. Whenever you introduce a third direction of movement, not sideways, not forward and back, but up, a fourth dimension, whatever it is, I guess that's third dimension, you have the opportunity to really, really shine based on your skill. So that's where Pathfinder is. And if you want to play ranked, if you want to play pubs, as long as you're not paying the ALGS, Pathfinder, phenomenal pick. A lot of streamers made Pathfinder for a reason. I'm also going to go with Revenant in this. And one of the reasons why is I've seen Revenant's reworks actually put Revenant in a pretty decent spot from a position of an individual character. Now Revenant feels more like he can stand on his own legs. He doesn't have to worry about working with his team. His team utility ended up being more like Octane's, and that's why they work so well together. You use the old death totem, everyone gets an extra bit of health, but it just became either not good enough, and then you reset and nothing really happens from it, and now you're all scattered, or too good. Like 3 people push you with extra lives, like, and then they come back, they're gonna kill you. You're gonna die. Thanks for the math equation there. It's just 2 versus 1. I'm gonna die. Now, I think Revenant, though, ultimately is not that type of character anymore, and in a good way, with the mobility of the Q that now allows him to be able to jump and to get to higher places through jumping, then scaling, using his passive to walk slower, with more speed while crouched. And then the ultimate giving him that extra barrier, having some resets potential. I think this is a kind of a skirmisher now, a true skirmisher in terms of the ability to fight and still provide some value to your teammates, to run away, to engage in fights. So Revenant's got a lot of kits. I'm not sure that Revenant, unlike some of these characters, can win you a game in the right spot, but I do think that Revenant is real hard to stop. When a good Revenant shows up and they put that ult on at the wrong time and you're like, man, I just finished the fight. Now you're going to third party me with your ults? You're going to win that fight. So Revenant, to me, I've seen a few Revenants in higher level Predator games and definitely Diamond games, and obviously PUBS. You can do well with Revenant. So Revenant, a higher hitbox, these 2 characters, bigger hitboxes, but I think because of their mobility, kind of stick as a B, unlike where Lifeline, lower hitbox, a bit of better mobility. All right, so now it's time to go into the next tier. You guys want to know about the A tiers. How would I describe the A tiers? You know, with all characters, they have weaknesses. Every character has a weakness, but A tiers weaknesses are not as significant as some of these other legends. Also, I would say with A tiers, one of the biggest things with them and S tiers is that they have a very high ceiling, meaning the players using them cannot just, they can truly work the value of the character up to their skill level. Certain characters can only do so much, no matter how skilled you are. For instance, let's look at Ballistic. That character, if you put Fade or someone who's insane, let's say Timmy, on Ballistic, he's not going to be able to show you all the incredible value that Timmy can bring to a game on Ballistic, because he's going to have to probably shift movement. He's not going to have the opportunities to reach height in the same way. His tactical won't help his team very much. It's a super solo tactical. He's going to have to get really aggressive, and that might not be smart in order to use his ultimate. You're going to see these things where, okay, this character kind of has a ceiling. And A, they have a higher ceiling, meaning higher potential. And so that's where we're putting these legends to be able to show it. And the first one that I see is maybe going to surprise you. But I'm not going to put it there right now. I'm going to put that last. Let's go ahead with maybe the biggest surprise of this season, a video I'm doing soon, is what's up with Bloodhound. Bloodhound has become an A-tier legend, is kind of stuck in that. It went down from around B to C, back up to A, was S for a while, back down to A. I think Bloodhound is just a great character. The reason Bloodhound gets picked quite often in general is because for a controller player, it is a very easy delegation of a character who gets a scan, makes your fight easy. And if your job is to go out there, frag, win your 1v1, hit a scan, slide, put your ultimate on, hit some movement speed, and spray. Like, that's it. You don't have to be grav lifting. You don't have to be calling out situations from the back and anchoring the squad and throwing down, spikes from Catalyst. You just have to go ahead and shoot. And that's where Bloodhound, in my opinion, is always kind of going to be a good delegation for certain controller players or certain players who are in that role of fragging out. However, Bloodhound has come into the meta again for a different reason. He's a counter pick to the current meta that we've seen. That's going to be where we finish this video talking about that current meta and obviously the S tier legends that are driving it. But Bloodhound has come in as a counter for that, and the scans just make it easier for every player to get not just value but team-wide value, and in a fight that has a lot of occlusion in it, a lot of smokes, a lot of walls, a lot of things that are very hard to see, very hard to fight through. Bloodhound kind of solves that problem, whereas the only way to solve it would be to deal with it or get digital threats, which aren't easy and also don't apply to every weapon. So if you have someone who wants to run a flatline or a hemlock as well as a nemesis, or they want to run something like a 30-30, you can't have a digital threat. It doesn't go on those weapons. It only goes on SMGs or pistols. So you're going to have a problem with everyone being able to have value. A Bloodhound says, oh, who cares if you have it? Here you go. Here's a scan. That's where everybody is in the smoke. That's really it. Bloodhound, just consistent, solid, team-wide value, team-wide ultimate value. Scans are massive. Scans are even better in this current meta. And you got mobility, you got utility, decent hitbox. That's basically it. Bloodhound. as an A. This character, I think, is an A as well. I think Valkyrie, when you look at these other A's, I said Pathfinder has some of the best mobility out of any other legend. I'd say Valkyrie and one other legend comes close to beating or matching Pathfinder. And Valkyrie, for the same reason why she was an OP legend and drove the meta for so many years. Her Skyward Dive was nerfed, and that is why I think a lot of teams stopped using it as a rotational tool. But until then, until they nerfed the height and the speed, she was how people got around maps. She was the game plan. She was the situation that you knew you were using to get out of a bad zone or to rotate late. And when you look at what it is now, the evac towers that have been introduced into the game also cut into, well, if Valkyrie's not only not going as high, and then we have evac towers that can go almost as high, maybe we just take an evac tower and we work in another legend into this. Her missile swarm, still one of the best tacticals in the game, but they've nerfed that as well, so it doesn't come off as oppressive as it was with the stun, with the screen shake, with the slow aim, and with the damage. But it's less oppressive than it used to be, but it's still a really good tactical. It's still really good extra damage. And you talk about being able to fly in jetpack. When I look at characters like this is a character that put it in the hands of Verhulst, and you could see some of the greatest plays that you've seen. Put it in the hands of, people like Jim Burton, or even when I look at Alliance effect, although not really a Valkyrie player, you look at some of the better players and the ability to play with Valkyrie, play their life, and make a play happen. This is one of the highest levels of characters with a high level ceiling that you can have in this game. Ranked, PUBS, ALGS, Valkyrie, I think, never a bad pick, even if you're not really using the Skyward Dive. The only difference is in PUBS, maybe she falls back a little bit with the Skyward Dive, but for me, you have the recon information from any of those Skyward Dives, any of those evac towers still landing down from the map. I think Valkyrie is just a great pick. And if you like mobility, if you like being able to move into the air and just have access to places most characters don't, come on. How can you go wrong with Valkyrie? Another legend we haven't seen in a long while, Wraith. Wraith is beautiful, man. Wraith is such a good character. Wraith was the character. Well, I didn't mean it like that. I mean, she's all right. She's all right. I like the new skin. I'm saying, hey, man, I'm wifed up. I'm good. I'm just saying that she's a beautiful character. Okay, she's got a lot of great skills. That's all I'm talking about, man. You ain't got to bring up. You guys don't have to do that. Okay, so what I'm really trying to mention here is just the fact that I think Wraith is a little bit overlooked because she's been so successful in the past. Wraith has been the marquee front runner character of Apex Legends forever. And that's a great thing. But what it means is that she's getting a lot of attention. And in the same way, when she's OP, she's going to get nerfed. Right now, though, having played a lot of Wraith recently, I would say in PUBS and Ranked, the sky is the limit. You could take her all the way up to any level. And that has always been the case of Wraith. You always see the one-trick race, and they will always still be dominating. One of the smallest hitboxes in the game. That kunai just makes you feel away when she's flipping it around. Invulnerability frames on the Q. Almost no other legend has it outside of Ashe. And you consider the interdimensional rift, which allows her to move her teammates. It's longer. It's faster. It's another form of movement speed for her as well. The utility for that is still amazing. And the skill ceiling for the value of that is where really Wraith still has this A-level potential. You talk about the differences between a Newcastle or a Lifeline or whatever it is, right? A Lifeline, it's a great example of a B and an A. A Lifeline can bring a care package down. Unless you care package like a team of 3 and they stand there and you get a triple kill off of your care package, there's only so much you could do with a care package, right? You just drop it down and pick up the items. I can do that just as well as Imperial Hal. But a dimensional rift at the right time, the right place, smart enough, outsmarting the enemy, maybe kidnapping someone, maybe doing it in a way to get myself the right amount of speed to outrun the zone, but then putting it in front of a door so they can't get out of the door, and then they take it and they go back in zone, or whatever it is, right? There's so many ways you can make that another level of value. Intelligence, all that, the abilities, they all scale off of your ability to play this game, which is why Wraith stays an A-tier legend in all categories. Definitely still play some Wraith. Wattson as well, I think, is an A-tier legend. In terms of utility, I've always talked very highly about Wattson. Wattson's always been probably a high win rate legend. That's why there's not a ton of changes with Wattson except slight nerfs. And also, she's probably not played to the point of being overly abused, which is why I think they're fine with not having to nerf or to buff Watson too much too often. Changes to the pylon, making it, limiting the amounts that you can have, making the changes of whether they're just being charged normally or one ultimate accelerant charges them. She's gone through a lot of adjustments, but the fact that she can hold down a building with her fences, she can hold down areas, she can make sure no one can siege into those areas with an interception pylon. Any ordinances, any grenades, thermites, arc stars that you throw in, instantly destroyed. She can add shielding passively to any team or any enemy who is within the range of that and within line of sight. That is exactly what you need to do in Apex. The last thing I heard in Apex, all you need to do is survive, make sure nothing hits you, and stay having more shielding and more health than the enemy team. She's exactly what you need to do in Apex to win. And when you go to World's Edge, I think she gains more value. When you're in, Broken Moon, some of these buildings, she gains more value. When you're in open spaces like Storm Point, it's tougher to play a Watson. And though we see it, and though we see people kind of commit to the Watson to keep their, in the ALGS specifically, I think their team consistent and how each of them are performing and how they kind of play with each other, I still think that this is a legend that is probably better on certain maps, and you could probably have more value if you swap off. That being said, Fnatic from APAC North, Yuka F, he is ranked top 10 in every single global LAN that we have ever played, and he's been a consistent Watson main the entire time. So if that doesn't tell you that there's a high skill ceiling there and the best of the best can make use of her, I don't know what else will. Watson, absolutely able to be played. All right, now we got all these legends coming up. You guys are like, well, where are these going? There are probably a few that you're a little surprised about sticking in here. I'm excited to talk about them. Okay, so now we've got Fuse. Fuse is, to me, actually getting a lot of ALGS play, more than I would have thought. I've seen TSM run Fuse in the first weekend, and they actually ran Fuse on, I believe it was World's Edge. Now, one of the things that Watson does well, obviously, on World's Edge is sieging or defending. One of the things Fuse does well is sieging. Now, you do not have as much open space, so therefore you're kind of a little bit more huddled up in certain positions. You don't have the flexibility of running around as much, playing catalyst walls, playing smokes. And so what does that mean? It means that you're a little more stationary, a little bit more locked in. And if you move, you're moving to a place that's probably already locked up as well. That's where Fuse comes in. The knuckle cluster, the damage from that ability, being able to utilize that on a place like World's Edge, it's dangerous. It hurts players more, and there's not as many places to go. It's a little bit of a smaller map too. It's really good pressure. Now, you do have to give up something else in order to use it. But the other real interesting thing is he's slightly a counter for the meta of occlusion, where we have smokes, we have walls. It's hard to see. Fuse's ultimate, the Motherlode, actually provides vision inside the Motherlode. So inside that ring of fire, you do end up being able to see anybody. And so smokes or circles, whatever, you can get some information as well as some damage. You do have to obviously say, I'm going for damage and I'm going for that small version of information that may not pay off over something that's a little bit more guaranteed, which is why I don't think Fuse is ever going to make it into the S tier range unless he becomes so oppressive that he turns into an Octane and they have to nerf them. And that's the problem with a kit like this. And even when talking to the designers who designed Fuse as well, way back in when I did an early creator meeting and conversation with them, it was like, we can't make this character too damaging. If we make these knuckle clusters hit for like 60, then basically he's just going to win every fight. It's going to be too oppressive. But if we make the knuckle clusters hit for 10, it's not going to matter. And the whole character's Q and identity is going to be useless, right? Because that's the utility. Utility is damage, which for those who are interested in like game dev and theory is difficult when you design a character that's only value is doing damage, because you have to get that balance exactly right. Otherwise they tilt from being completely broken to irrelevant. All right, let's go back down to the two remaining A-tier legends. Who's it gonna? Oh, wait a second. Oh, yes, I'm actually gonna put Rampart in here. That's right, Rampart. She is an A-tier legend. I've seen her in the ALGS last weekend as well. And so obviously we're going off of what pros are using and what is capable to be played in the highest of competition in all of Apex. But the reason I like Rampart is because I feel like she does things that Newcastle wants to do, that Gibraltar wants to do, maybe even do slightly better. they do them slightly better than her, but what she does slightly better is she does it anywhere, everywhere, anytime. The walls of Rampart have become more quality of life improved. They've been improved, I think, over more patches than I've seen almost anything else improved. From the deploy time to shielding to how many she could have. Every single attempt at making Rampart relevant has improved Rampart's kit to the point where she feels really good. She's got damage amp better than Valkyrie and for Vantage, and for free for her teammates as well. You could defend on a rock. I saw her on the top of a mountain on a slope. You could defend in the middle of a pond. You could hold down doors with her walls. You can siege buildings with her walls. You could defend buildings with her walls. Sheila is great at also sieging as well. One of the small, very small things for Rampart that she brings as a counter to any Catalyst play is she can immediately destroy those doors with the Sheila. She also can easily destroy the piercing spikes with the Sheila, which takes a lot of extra ammo and a lot of extra time. And sometimes people will use it as like a spray and pray through the wall, right? You just got a lot of value there. It's still a pocket pick, but it's one of those picks that I think a good Rampart can exist anywhere and is always going to be valuable to your team. Yes, she's got a buff in using LMGs. Sometimes that's more of the meta. Sometimes it's not. But either way, I think Rampart just brings a lot of utility to the team. She's a smaller character, and she's fun to play. And yeah, it's the best use of damage amp and defense, I think, for this kind of fast-moving meta. All right, our last A-tier legend is Loba. Loba is she's a version of Caustic where if you get her to late game, she actually has so many tools in her black market boutique that make your fight easier. When you play ALGS, when you play high tier, you really find yourself sitting in buildings longer than you think. We don't cover the action in the same way. It would be like, covering every commercial break with players like sitting down, drinking somewhere. How was that play, man? Yeah, cool. Was it, and we're not covering that, but that's actually happening between the moments that you're seeing the action on camera or you're playing. When it comes to finding those moments now in the end game, you're out of meds, you're out of ammo, you've been sitting in the same building for 20 minutes before end game. There's still 14 teams alive. You're running out of bullets, you're running out of grenades. Loba's Black Market Boutique, 6 new grenades, instant, as much ammo as you want. Swap a shield from somebody that died. You don't have to leave your building. You go ahead, throw that shield on the ground. Now you got shield swaps for days. This is a very good legend when it comes to late game, and also has mobility. I mean, let's not forget about it. Like, you look at Valkyrie, you look at maybe speed mobility, you look at Loba, you look at Pathfinder, you look at Revenant, Octane. Ashe needs to use her ultimate. Vantage, you're not even really thinking about Vantage. Not a lot of legends have that mobility to be able to move upwards. And that's one of the things that Loba brings. She can get in difficult spots. She can get height for your team. She can go through windowsills and then reappear there. Different things that players would have to stay their normal size and can't just teleport, cannot do. So there's a lot of possibilities with Loba, and her passive is fun to play with. Whether you're playing ranked, whether you're playing PUBS, or whether you're playing ALGS, I think Loba provides value. And a good Loba is always going to be welcomed on a team. So that's where she sits. She's an A-tier legend. A lot of potential to. Better Lobas are going to make better decisions, and it's going to really, really help your team. Okay, let's talk about the meta. I mean, this is the meta right now. This is what we're seeing. These are the legends that, from the TSMs to the Alliances to the Optic Gamings to every other legends, every other big name in esports and orgs that you're looking at, whether it's the ALGS or they're just representing, their name from different esports, they're playing these legends. So let's talk about them. Let's talk about why. And what does an S tier legend really mean? It's a character that can do the good things that you want to do safely, consistently, and the value is almost inherent. Like, yes, they have weaknesses like any other legend, but when you do something on these characters, there's almost always instant value, and there's also almost always the highest skill ceiling possible for the greatest opportunity of play to occur. These are the characters that when you say, I want the fastest bike to go bike the Tour de France or whatever it is, this is that bike. This is that bike. It's like, yo, you may not, it depends on how good of a rider you are, but you got the machinery. That is what this is. So let's first talk about it. The one maybe very defining legend that is bumped from A to S because of the way that the game is being played right now is Bangalore. Bangalore is so good. And the reason Bangalore is really good is this. Double Time is a passive that gives her 30% movement speed when anyone is even shooting near her. So no matter what she does, if she's in a fight, she's just 30% faster than you. Sorry. This has been her passive since day one, by the way. It's a good passive. It's not better than some of the other passives we've seen. She is kind of not the bride, always a bridesmaid in terms of not the most OP character. But we've seen a shift in the way that she's been playing. I always give a shout out to Shiv FPS for bringing Bangalore into kind of the ethos of high level play in EMEA and then across these regions, because he really has been a Bangalore made from the beginning. The Warlord, go check him out. I love Shiv. If you're a Shiv fan, comment down below, show some love. Bangalore was not necessarily played in high level play until that moment. You talk about now, though, the smokes, and I think the smokes are the biggest defining feature of what's making her so valuable. When you talk about Storm Point or World's Edge, instant value in throwing your smoke down to occlude and block sight from enemies quickly, efficiently, and there's really nothing they can do because people don't want to push you in a smoke, even if they have a digital threat. Also, you lose a lot of inside the smoke on a controller aim assist, which is obviously kind of dominated more of the meta of Apex Legends. I'm pretty sure that's correct. You guys can check if it's not, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. And I've overheard Hal talking about needing to practice playing Bangalore at times within the smoke, especially with the shifts of how it feels to play with aim assist kind of not working in the smoke the same way. The other thing that she does besides that now, so you're in the middle of a field, you're in Storm Point, you're holding a building in World's Edge, when your doors get blown off, you throw the smoke there. You throw the smoke outside. You throw the smoke near on the left side of the pond. You've got another wall. You've got something else you're playing on the right side. You're now safe, and you can keep on doing that. So she's really good in these open areas. She's very fast. She can play aggressively. And then the ultimate, I think it's the kicker. Not only does it delay, there's like 4 different great opportunities that happen when the ultimate occurs. She delays the enemy team. She kills the enemy team or does damage to them and makes them heal. She buys you time, right? Because no one's going to fight in that. So now she buys you time to heal. And honestly, or she makes their play predictable. So they don't die, they don't have to heal. But because the ult goes right like this way in this huge wide swath, suddenly you know that the team's got to go right or left. And if the zone's right, you know they got to run left. You make their play predictable. So there's 4 amazing things that can happen when Bangalore throws her ultimate. That's 3 abilities, 3 pieces of basically instant value. That's why Bangalore is S tier. She's been running this meta, and we're seeing a lot of smokes, and she's kind of become, she's taken the place of a defensive legend, kind of, because she's like, I can give you defense and offense. So let's be like in this utility meta. Let's do it. All right, another legend that's coming, our newest legend, Conduit. Conduit is a legend that I know a lot of you have been wanting to talk about. Conduit has a similar kind of role to Bangalore in terms of 3 abilities that just give you instant value. One of the things that I love about Conduit is not only the way that she's sized, she is a smaller character, so again, harder to hit. This is a big impact. There's reasons I mention this because characters like Gibraltar and Caustic actually have 15% damage reduction. And have been in previous times, we've had characters have extra damage amp. We've had damage reduction. We've had different things come in and out of the game because of hitbox sizes, because it does matter. And these characters, unlike certain games where they kind of different models but same hitboxes, these games, and this game specifically, the size of your character is the size that you're going to be able to shoot and hit. So it is an advantage to be harder to hit and smaller, less options for those bullets. Second thing is, let's talk about her passive, Save Your Speed. 30% movement speed, like Bangalore, but only when you're out of range with your teammates. So this is pretty much valuable. You don't have to do anything. If you're a little farther away from your teammates, they're rotating faster than you, you're rotating faster than them. It's great. And it also kind of encourages players who jump in to play Catalyst to kind of stay a little behind their team, partially because, you know, you're going to be able to catch up to them very quickly, and you can see them for where you want to put your Q. Now, the Q, obviously, is one of the best things, and it's kind of changed this game. Radiant Transfer. People have talked to me and said on stream, they go, they come in, they say, Rain Day, what do you think about Conduit? Should she be in the meta? Should she be even a character in this game? How do we fix Conduit? I don't know. You want to know my real opinion on this? Just let her be. Let her be. She'll get nerfed or she won't get nerfed. Another character will get buffed. These metas change so much, guys. I've talked about like 1,000 different versions of metas that have happened. Don't worry about it. It's going to change eventually, so just enjoy what it is. There was a moment, Caustic was the meta. Gibby was the meta. You know what I'm saying? Octane was the meta. Seer was the meta. Rev was the meta. Path was the meta. You know, Lifeline early on was the meta. Bloodhound was the meta. Valkyrie was the meta. Wraith was the meta. Watson was the meta. I feel like I'm Buster Rhymes up in here. You know what I'm saying? There's always going to be a moment. So let's talk about why she is defining this meta. The Radiant Transfer is a shield healer. So you get 60 heals, 7.5 HP per second, I believe. And that lasts for 6 seconds. Maybe 8 seconds, something like that. I think that totals about, maybe 4 or 6 seconds. I don't know. Something in that range. And so, I think it's 4 to 8 seconds. I think it's 8. Anyways, what ends up happening is that when you utilize those transfers of shields, you kind of delay the normal TTK, the time to kill, and that becomes very difficult in the fight. A lot of people in Apex know exactly how long it takes to get a purple or red shield. You've probably played this in PUBS, in ranked, and in this situation, you don't. That is out the window. That information is gone now. If a Radiant Transfer comes in, you're one bullet away from finishing them, and suddenly they tick up to another 15, 20 health. That's a full reload. Now they are fighting and killing you. That can change the game. And Conduit has been making now 1v1s unpredictable, giving teams that maybe wouldn't have won that 1v1 a chance to do so, making it much more of a team-wide decision. And I think if you're a team that doesn't have 1v1 superstars, whether it's on controller or MNK, who are going at each other, and you don't have the effects, you don't have the Verhulsts of the game, this is a way to even things out. Bar none. If you wouldn't have won the fight, this is a way to kind of win the fight now. And unless Reps is playing Conduit and giving him that, you're probably going to beat Verhulst. You know, so this is where we've seen the game change. And not only that, Conduit's getting shields as well. This is huge for early game. When you run out of those white shields, you don't get a blue, you got to fight. The Conduit means you get 100 extra health back. That's massive. That's massive. And it buys you time. And the Radiant Transfer happening for her and for another player, that's huge. So we're seeing this become a staple. I think this will continue to be. Not every player uses it, but this is probably a 70%, 60 to 70% pick. Also, let's talk about the ultimate energy barricade. It's phenomenal. Wards off space. You cannot fight in it. You will die. Damages. Locks down an area. Can be applied aggressively to an enemy. Can be used defensively to hold space. Conduit is good, man. Conduit, just every single thing you do. You throw that energy barricade, you press Q, or you just move. Value. This is a well-designed character to get played. Bar none. You ain't got to do nothing. Good things happen. That is why she is S tier. And smaller hitbox? Come on, man. Conduit's good. I'm not sure what's going to change it, but I don't really worry about that. Catalyst has stayed S tier in my mind. Catalyst has been one of the more fun introductions into this game. The wall has to be maybe the most interesting ultimate ability we have in this game. It cuts off areas. It changes the map. It changes the circle. It changes everything, and it's all based on the intellect and the experience of the user. The skill ceiling, so high. Piercing spikes, they got nerfed this last season. It was a step in the right direction, but Catalyst, not really worried about that. You could still have 2 instead of 3. They still block doors. They don't do damage unless you're line of sight, but who cares? You're not going to run over a piercing spike. You see it, you're either going to shoot it or not move over it. It still does its job as a defensive legend. And I think when you consider, what does Catalyst bring to where they're passive, it might be the most important thing that she brings. Being able to barricade doors, 4 kicks. I mean, essentially, you could blow a door off, and now no one's playing Watson, so you throw nades in there, you're dead. Catalyst, boom, just presses E. You blow that up, press Z. Blow that up, does it again. I mean, it's like you're not going to be able to siege into a Catalyst. It's so effective. It's better than any other legend. I mean, even if you throw a caustic gas canister, that's maybe the only thing that would force, even if someone knocked you, not wanting to go inside, or Watson. And so she's just a phenomenal character. She's dominated in-game circles ever since she was brought. I give a huge shout out to Aurora. the original Aurora, not this Fire Beavers Aurora with Hardeki, but the Aurora from the last few years. They pioneered using this character in in-game zones and gave everyone, I think, an idea of how powerful it could be. Boy, oh boy. Catalyst, she's been a part of, I think, the major championships now consistently, and I don't see her going anywhere until she gets a major change. Or if maybe season 20, there's some big changes. I don't know. Finally, last but not least, Horizon. I think she's, I mean, if I talk about like a LeBron James, you know, maybe like Wraith is like MJ. I look at kind of like Horizon is like LeBron James, because there's just so much value that this character brings. Nobody can take her team up in the same way, Gravity Lift, that Horizon can. She feels like me, the perfect medium-sized, all flexible character. She's like, you know, even maybe a better version of this is like Mario. She's like Mario in Apex, but like Super Mario, like a true Super Mario. Like, she's better than average, and she does everything well. She's got decent hitbox. She can move. She can take her teammates with her when she moves with the Gravity Lift. Her ultimate is a game changer. When you throw that down, you absolutely force an enemy team to make a play. You force them to destroy it. Or they take instant damage. It can be full team wipes. It's not an ultimate you can ignore. And her passive is so good for fighting, for fleeing. Spacewalk, giving you the ability to just move, come down from that height, and be the first one to either slide away, gain distance, whether you're being chased or you're chasing, or obviously get back into the fight. Ultimate playmaker. This is what Hal has kind of been on in the last year that has made TSM the winningest team in our ALGS Year 3 championship, Split 1 playoffs. This is just a character that I think when you want big moments to happen, you have a Horizon, you put that character on that Horizon, and wow, whether it's an ult, whether it's Gravity Lift for the team utility wise, or just a big play from them, hitting a shield battery on top of it, resetting fights, getting vision. I just think in terms of a skirmisher mid-fight, there's no better legend than Horizon. That's my tier list. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like. Never give up. Never stop gaming. I'll see you guys on the ALGS, and follow me on twitch.tv/Rainday. Well, let's talk about this a little bit more, and make sure to subscribe. Take care, guys.